Hey guys, GP Jesus here. In Unit 1, determinants can be quite challenging to memorize. So in this video, I'll be covering two acronyms that can help you remember what shifts what and why. However, before we go into the acronyms, let's revise some things about supply. The law of supply states that price has a linear relationship with quantity supplied, in that more quantity is supplied as price increases. This is because there is profit to be made with a higher expensive item, as you can sell it for more. You must also remember that a change in price will only move along a curve from P1 to P2. As you can see, the quantity demanded has shifted. However, demand itself is still the same. Supply will only shift from one of the 6 determinants. So if there's a change and it doesn't fall under a determinant, then supply isn't going anywhere. Our acronym for supply is STORY, like a bedtime story, except spelt weirdly with an IE instead of a Y. When the test starts, you can just lay out the acronym on the side and then list off the determinant so you don't forget it. So first off, we have an S. S is for a change in the number of sellers. As if you think about it, the more sellers there are, the more of a good will be supplied. That's more of common sense. So the next one we have is T. T is for technology. Let's say you're told to dig a hole with your bare hand while your friend uses a shovel. Your friend's productivity will be much greater than yours. This is known as physical capital, as he's using a physical tool. And there's also human capital, which can count under technology, which includes worker knowledge or skills, as they can be much more productive. So next we have a change in the price of other goods. So example, if a firm sells both shorts and some jeans or long pants, and they're both the same price, suddenly the price of jeans increases. Then the firm can earn more profit from selling the more expensive good than some cheap jeans. And this will increase the supply of jeans, since firms are looking to earn more profits. Next we have a change in regulation, specifically government regulation. When a government imposes a tax on the producers, they're gonna produce less, as they're being taxed on. While for a subsidy, they just got a bunch of money and then they'll start to produce more. So change in regulations, that's one of the more easier ones to understand. I is for a change in the price of input resources. If the price of paper increases, then you're probably going to see a lot less paper books, since it's more expensive to produce them and therefore less is going to be produced. So finally we have E. E is for expectations. Specifically, since we're on the supply side, supplier expectations. For example, if let's say a supplier expects a future increase in price, then they'll probably hold back their resources now and sell them later, as more profit can be earned in the future with the higher cost. So those are the main shifters of supply. Your school or teacher might add some different ones, but all in all, it's going to look somewhat like this. And if not, you can just change up the acronym. So for demand, we have the law of demand, which states that price has an inverse relationship with quantity demanded. This means that consumers will be willing to buy less as price increases, as the good is more expensive. Think about it in a consumer mindset. Like supply, demand itself has its own determinants, specifically 5 of them, which can be summed up by this acronym of TONIE, which I got from Khan Academy. And TONIE rhymes with story, which is why they work quite well together. T is for taste, so change in consumer taste. For example, if a study came out showing that video games cause violence, then demand for video games will probably decrease, as not many parents will want their child to become violent. Next we have O, which is a change in the price of other related goods. Just like for supply, except we're applying this for demand, where substitutes and complements can affect the demand for a good or service. N is a change in the number of consumers. This is very similar to a change in number of sellers, and it makes sense, as a sudden increase in the number of students will also lead to an increase in the quantity demanded of parents' textbooks. So I is a change in income. Remember what we learned earlier, that certain goods are either normal or inferior, where for a normal good, an increase in an income will increase the demand for that good, while for an inferior good, an increase will lead to a decrease in demand for that good. This is all stuff you should have learned in Unit 1. And finally, we have a change in expectations, such as consumers who expect a future increase in price will buy now to save money. Or for example, Black Friday, as many consumers will decide to hold off from buying until that day so that they can snipe a good deal. So that's TONIE for you. For now, you can relate these two acronyms of TONIE and STORY with TONIE reads a bedtime story, or just TONIE reads a story. As in AP Macroeconomics, you'll probably encounter a lot of other determinants or acronyms you'll need to memorize. So grouping relevant acronyms together is important to avoid confusing them. To recap, STORY for supply and TONIE for demand. And you have to remember that if there's any change that's not part of the determinant, supply or demand behind it aren't going anywhere, and you'll simply be moving along the curve. I hope this video helped. GPA Jesus out. I died for your grades.